They gave me 24 hours to leave my home, or they would take it from me. 24 hours. That's how long the letter gave me. A single piece of paper, delivered by a courier with a blank expression, held the power to shatter my entire world. It wasn't a bank foreclosure, not an eviction from a landlord. It was from them, the Homeowners Association, the self-appointed guardians of our suburban paradise. And the reason? The reason was my garden. My beautiful, thriving, life-giving garden. For 3 years, since my wife Clara passed away, that garden had been my sanctuary. Every seed I planted was a memory, every bloom a conversation with her ghost. She had loved gardening more than anything. Our dream was to retire and live off the land, our little plot of earth a testament to a simple, honest life. After she was gone, I poured all my grief, all my love, all my remaining purpose into that soil. It wasn't just a hobby. It was the only thing keeping my heart beating. I had transformed our manicured lawn into a vibrant ecosystem. Tomatoes climbed trellises where decorative shrubs once stood. Corn stalks reached for the sun instead of perfectly pruned hedges. Bees, butterflies, and birds had returned, creating a symphony of life that had long been absent from our sterile neighborhood. I gave away most of the produce to my neighbors, sharing the bounty, sharing a piece of Clara's legacy. Some were grateful, their children's eyes wide with wonder at a carrot pulled straight from the earth. But others saw chaos. They saw weeds, not wildflowers. They saw a violation of the aesthetic code, a blemish on the perfect, uniform face of the community. Leading the charge was Mr. Henderson, the HOA president, a man whose lawn was a chemically treated, unnaturally green carpet, and whose smile never quite reached his eyes. The warnings started small. Gentle reminders about bylaws, passive-aggressive notes tucked under my door. I tried to reason with them. I explained the garden's significance, its meaning. I even presented a petition signed by the neighbors who loved the fresh vegetables. But the HOA board was a fortress of rules and regulations, deaf to the pleas of a grieving man. They cited bylaws I had never read, clauses about lawn maintenance and visual harmony. My garden, my memorial to Clara, was deemed a nuisance. They fined me, again and again. The fines grew, accumulating into a mountain of debt I couldn't possibly pay. I was a retired teacher on a fixed pension. I couldn't fight their team of lawyers. And then the final letter arrived. The ultimatum. They had placed a lien on my home for the unpaid fines and were initiating foreclosure proceedings. I had 2 options: destroy the garden and pay an impossible sum within 30 days, or vacate the premises in 24 hours before they changed the locks. Destroy the garden. The words felt like a physical blow. They were asking me to dig up my wife's memory, to bulldoze my own heart. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't. That night, I didn't pack. Instead, I walked out into my garden under the cold light of the moon. I ran my hands over the rough leaves of the zucchini plants, inhaled the sweet fragrance of the ripening strawberries. I whispered goodbye to every plant, every memory. This was Clara, this was us. I couldn't let them erase her. So I made a decision. It was a crazy, desperate plan, but it was the only one I had. At dawn, a large moving truck pulled up, but it wasn't for my furniture. I had called every nursery, every landscape company, every friend with a strong back I had left. For the next 18 hours, we performed a miracle of love and defiance. We didn't destroy the garden, we moved it. We carefully dug up every single plant, every vine, every stalk. We unearthed the rosebush Clara had planted on our 10th anniversary, its roots deep and stubborn, just like her. We scooped up the soil, the rich, dark earth I had nurtured for years, and shoveled it into hundreds of pots, bags, and buckets. Neighbors who had signed my petition came to help, a silent, determined army against the tyranny of conformity. They brought wheelbarrows and gloves, their faces a mixture of pity and admiration. Even the courier who delivered the letter, a young man with kind eyes, showed up after his shift. He said he'd seen too many stories like mine. Mr. Henderson and the board members watched from their windows, their expressions unreadable as we dismantled my sanctuary piece by piece. They had won. They were getting their pristine, lifeless neighborhood back. But they weren't getting my soul. With just minutes to spare, we loaded the last of the soil onto the truck. I stood on the empty, ravaged patch of land where my garden had been. It was just dirt now, a scar on the perfect lawn. I took one last look at the house, the home where I had built a life, raised a family, and said goodbye to my wife. Then I locked the door, dropped the keys in the mailbox as instructed, and drove away, following the truck that held the last living piece of my past. I didn't know where I was going. I had no home, no plan. All I had was a truck full of dirt and plants and the enduring memory of love. Now, weeks later, I'm staying with an old friend, a fellow teacher who lives on a few acres out in the country. My garden is here, replanted. The soil is different, the air is different, but the plants remember. They are starting to thrive again. My story somehow got out. A local news station picked it up, then another. People started talking about the tyranny of HOAs, about the right to grow your own food, about what a home truly means. The support has been overwhelming. Strangers have sent messages, shared their own stories of bureaucratic battles and the fight for a little piece of personal freedom. They see what the HOA never could, that a garden isn't just about plants. It's about life, resilience, and connection. Sometimes I wonder what Mr. Henderson thinks when he looks at the barren patch of land where my garden once grew. Does he feel a sense of victory? Or does he perhaps feel a flicker of something else? A hollowness, maybe. The cold, sterile emptiness he fought so hard to create. But then my thoughts turned back to the soil under my fingernails, to the new green shoots pushing their way toward the sun. They took my house, but they couldn't take my home, because my home was never just four walls and a roof. It was in the love I nurtured from the earth. I'm sharing this story not for pity, but for a purpose. Clara always believed that from the darkest soil, the most beautiful things can grow. If her memory, and the garden that honored it, can inspire even one person to stand up for what they love, to find beauty in the unconventional, then this loss will not have been in vain. If this story has touched something in your heart, if you believe that a home is more than just property, please, do me a favor and like this video. Not for me, but for her, so her spirit, like the seeds from our garden, can spread far and wide. The greatest lesson life has taught me is this: never let anyone pave over your paradise. Protect what you love, cultivate your own joy, and never, ever be afraid to get your hands dirty fighting for it. Thank you for listening.